So what you're going to need to make the table is a drill. The drills can either be accompanied by an impact or not. I like the versatility of both because I can pre-drill and then drive the screws in with the impact. Coming with the drill, you have a pocket hole jig. Some people can do it without a pocket hole jig. The only difference is you'll have the screws going from the top down into your tabletop, so it makes it a little bit nicer of a look on the outside. You'll need a sander or a orbital sander. I use the orbital sander. I don't like butt splinters, so I sand down all of my surfaces. You're going to need a skill saw or a circular saw in combination with your square. You can also use a miter saw if you have one. That's what I used. Much easier to make the compound cuts that you'll be using throughout this build. You're going to have a measuring tape for your fasteners, 3.5-inch carriage bolts and 2.5-inch screws. Some clamps just to make sure that the table can sit nice and square as you drive in those fasteners. Some exterior grade glue and some hearing protection and eye protection because nobody outranks general safety. So what you're going to need to make this 6-foot picnic table is either 13 individual 6-foot 2x6s, or you can move it up to 12-foot 2x6s. You'll just have to get 7 of those and you'll have a 6-foot spare. That might be advantageous to you if you are prone to making a few mistakes, or if you know that the wood you're going to be getting isn't really in the best of shape. As well with that, you're going to need 2 8-foot 2x4s. Those are going to be the cross members to go underneath, as well as the underside that you can see on this table right now that connects all the top. So what you're going to do off the bat is you're going to do your cut list. So here I have a detailed list of every single cut that I need to make for the picnic table. Either the day before or the same day, I'll jot everything down on paper even if I'm taking the templates off online. The reason for that is now I can make check marks on my paper. I can make sure I'm actually getting everything in line and I'm not missing anything. Plus, sometimes I don't want my phone to get too dirty. So, when I get all the wood into my shop, I put it all next to the phone, just at the base there, and I let it all sit for a while. I try and let it sit for at least a day. I want to make sure that there's no bows or cups in the wood that I got just from a little bit of drying. Then I'm going to move everything up and I'm going to start cutting. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I can isolate which ones are my 5 best pieces of 2x6s. Those are going to be used for my tabletop. I want the 5 straightest, smoothest, and least imperfections on the surface itself. If it's on the underside, for example, there's a small knot in there that might come loose. I'll hit it with a little bit of CA glue just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, and then I'll continue on that way. So once you have all 5 of your tabletop pieces said and done, then you're going to move on to your legs. You want to make sure that your legs are just as sturdy and just as nice as your tabletop, because these are going to be the things that are going to be supporting you and everybody else that's going to be sitting on it. So if you put some big knots or cracks or tears straight down the center, once you put those carriage bolts in and weight of everybody that's going to be sitting on it, might stress it even more and you might actually break your table. When you cut your 30-degree angles on there, I used a 10-inch miter saw. You're going to have to flip your piece over on itself and then finish off the cut that way. Sometimes you'll have some little imperfections on the bottoms here. Just hit that with the sander, it'll sand it right down and it'll be nice and smooth. Once you're done with your legs, you're going to move over to your seat supports. Those are these big guys. The main thing you want to focus on with these seat supports is that they're straight. You don't want any bows or cups and you don't want any humps in it. You're going to be cutting 45-degree angles on the ends. I ended up setting 2 inches off, 45-degree angle. That way, if anybody's walking up to your bench to go sit in there, they're not going to hit their knee on a nice sharp angle. After that, you're going to cut your center supports for underneath your table themselves. Those are going to be cut out of 2x4s. Same concept as your seat braces, you're just going to be doing those on the supports themselves as well. I moved 1.5 inches in, 45-degree angle, and then I moved on with pocket holes onto there. So as you can see, there's pocket holes on here. As you can see, the pocket holes on the braces themselves, I made sure to put 2 in either board just to add some more security to the braces themselves. When placing the tabletop supports on there, I made sure they were 4 inches from the ends on either side. And those would allow dead center 29 3/4 of an inch. Because once this is done and my legs are placed on there, I'm going to have additional supports coming down. That way it adds some more rigidity to the legs, and the legs aren't swaying back and forth, possibly moving if the carriage bolts give way. Next, we're going to be focusing on the legs. So what you're going to do is you're going to find the complementing 30-degree angle. So what I ended up doing was I ended up sealing mine with cut and seal at the base just to add some more security to it. So I'm going to make sure that my fresh cut is going to be facing the top of the tabletop. Well, I'm going to find the center of the board. The center board is going to be matching up with the very tip of this 30-degree angle. I'm going to place it there, and then I'm going to grab a clamp. I'm going to clamp the leg onto it. That sucks. Now, as you can tell, I used my 3/8 drill bit, and I just drilled a hole off to the one side of the top of the leg. Then I'm going to complement that with one on the other side. The main thing about this is you're going to be using whatever diameter of drill bit that you used for your carriage bolt. For instance, I have a 3/8 inch carriage bolt, so I used a 3/8 inch drill bit. When that's done, you're going to take your carriage bolt, you're going to insert it, and you might have to use a hammer to tap it in a few times, but don't force it in, because if you do that, you could damage the threads on there, and ultimately it might not work out for you. Next, you're going to clean off around the end of the carriage bolt. You're going to grab your washer and your nut, and you're going to mount them on. And just like that, you have yourself almost a table. And benches, I guess. It is a table. So you usually can stop here. Just put some braces underneath the legs, keep them together so they don't sprawl out like a deer that's just learning to walk, and you have yourself a table. But tomorrow we'll be getting into the benches and the supports as well. Main reason why tomorrow I have to go back to the hardware store. I forgot one single carriage bolt. See you then.